All right. Let's dive into this Steal Like an Artist thing
Okay.
by Austin Kleon. This is a book you sent over. It looks like you're really interested in.
Yeah.
Some of the ideas in here.
Yeah.
So,
You know what jumped out at you as we were looking at this? I think the title itself,
yeah,
like an artist.
I know.
That's kind of a...
It's a little provocative for sure.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I mean, because as somebody who's
Well, right away.
trying to make
It tackles that,
something new, he's like, look,
Isn't that kind of like
I know this sounds like we're endorsing plagiarism.
plagiarism?
We're not. This is a philosophy.
Yeah.
It's not a how-to guide
Right?
in plagiarizing.
I mean, how do you steal
Wait.
like an artist and
He says flat out,
be a plagiarist?
nothing is original. And he uses this great analogy of genetics and family trees.
Okay.
You inherit traits from your parents, but you're not an exact replica of either one of them.
Right.
Right. You're a unique combination of
Right.
all those things.
So you're saying that anything new that comes along is basically just a remix of the old
Yes.
ideas.
He says art is theft, Pablo Picasso. And then T.S. Eliot said, immature poets imitate, mature poets steal.
Okay, so we should be looking at all these things that have come before us.
Absolutely.
Inspiration.
And curating those things.
Right.
He says, be a collector.
Yeah.
Good artists are collectors. They collect the things that they love,
But then they do something with them.
and they are influenced by them.
Right.
Just like that economic theory, you're going to earn about the same amount of money as the 5 people that you hang out with the most.
Oh, interesting.
Your idea income is going to be about the same as the 5 people you hang out with, so choose wisely.
Surround yourself
That's right. Surround yourself
with brilliant people.
with brilliant people, with people who think in a way that you want to think.
Yeah.
And yeah, so...
Okay, so now we're surrounded by these brilliant thinkers.
Yeah.
We're allowing ourselves to be influenced by what's come before us.
Jim Jarmusch
But how do we take that next step?
says, steal from anywhere that resonates with you.
Okay.
Don't do it just because it's easy or because it looks pretty,
Yeah.
but steal from things that resonate with you.
Okay.
And he also says, study your heroes.
Mm.
And he suggests literally making a family tree
Okay.
of your creative heroes, starting with one person that you just absolutely love, and then looking at 3 people that they loved, and then 3 people that those people loved, and so on and so forth.
Okay, so start with your hero.
Yes.
And then kind of go up their family tree.
That's right.
Okay.
And what you'll find is that there are all these fascinating lineages
Yeah.
that sort of pop up, and it can help you understand like the evolution of a particular style or a
So
movement.
you can see how everything's connected.
You really do. You really do. And it's really helpful, once you start putting your own work out there, you can say, oh, okay, this is where my stuff fits in.
Right.
The lineage
In the history
that
of
we're
our
part of.
whatever it is.
Oh.
That's right.
Yeah, okay.
And he talks about the importance of
That makes sense.
continuous learning. He quotes RZA, who said,
Okay.
whether I went to school or not, I would always study.
So it's not just about
Continuous learning is so important.
formal education.
That's
It's
right.
about always looking.
It's that thirst for knowledge.
Yeah.
And he encourages you to be curious about everything. Like he even says, use Google to research your dreams and problems,
Mm-hmm.
not just facts and figures.
Oh, interesting.
Right. Like be curious about your dreams and
Oh.
problems. He also talks about
You never stop learning, basically.
never stop learning.
Okay.
Surround yourself with sources of inspiration. He quotes John Waters, the filmmaker. Nothing is more important than an unread library.
Oh, that's great. Right. Like your library should be
It's almost daunting.
overstuffed
Yeah.
with all the books you haven't read yet.
An unread library. Yeah, I like that.
Because there's so much to,
A lot of potential there.
yeah, there's so much to explore.
So, okay, we're surrounding ourselves
Yeah.
with inspiration. We're being curious.
Yes.
We're studying our heroes, going up the family tree.
Okay, so now we've got to do something with it all.
How do we organize all this stuff?
Yeah. One of the most practical things, he says,
Right.
is carry a notebook everywhere you go.
Okay.
And he's got stories about artists who did this to like kind of extreme length.
Like what?
David Hockney, the painter, apparently had his suit jackets tailored to fit sketchbooks in the pockets
Wow.
so that he could
Yeah,
sketch,
I could see
capture,
something
operation.
like that. Yeah. Arthur Russell, a musician, always wore a shirt with 2 front pockets, specifically to hold scraps of sheet music.
So always be ready
Always be ready.
to jot something down. And how many ideas do you think you lose?
Oh, I'm sure I lose a lot.
Because you don't have a way to capture them.
Right.
Right. So have your phone, have a notebook, have something.
Okay, so that's a good first step. What else?
Well, then he also suggests building what he calls a swipe file.
Okay.
Or a morgue file, which is basically just a curated collection of things that you find inspiring. Images, quotes, articles.
It's kind of like anything that speaks to you.
A Pinterest board.
Yeah, kind of.
But a physical...
But you have to be selective.
Right.
It's not hoarding. You're curating.
Yeah.
A collection of things that when you need a boost, when you need inspiration,
Right.
you go back to.
I like that. Swipe file.
Swipe file.
Okay.
And then he says you're going to have this feeling
Okay.
called imposter syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter how successful you are or how far you've come.
Right.
You're always going to have this feeling like, I'm a fraud.
I'm not a real artist. I'm not a real artist.
Right.
Right. And he says there are two ways to think about fake it till you make it.
Okay.
One, pretend to be something you're not until you actually become it.
Okay.
Right? Like dress for the job you want, not the job you have.
Okay.
The other way is pretend to be making something until you actually are making it.
I like that.
Right.
So you're tricking your brain a little bit.
Yeah. He tells this great story from Patti Smith's memoir, Just Kids.
Okay.
She and Robert Mapplethorpe, before they were famous artists,
Right.
used to dress up in their bohemian clothes and hang out in Washington Square Park.
Okay.
And this older couple sees them, and the wife says to her husband, "Oh, take their picture. I think they're artists." And the husband says, "Nah, they're just kids."
Just kids. They were faking it.
They were faking it.
Until they made it.
That's right.
Right.
And he says, a lot of creative work is like theater.
What?
Think of the studio as your stage, and think of your tools as props. Right. You're setting the scene for the creative work to happen.
So we're faking it till we make it.
Yeah.
We're surrounding ourselves with inspiration.
Yeah.
Jotting down ideas.
Absolutely.
And what was the next one? The
With swipe file.
swipe file.
Yeah, keep that swipe file going.
Okay, we got our swipe file. We're organized.
Yeah.
So now...
And then he says, this is where it gets kind of
What's the next
interesting. He
step?
says, copy your heroes. Okay, wait a minute.
I know, he's not endorsing plagiarism here.
Yeah.
But he's saying, like, study.
How can you copy
And then,
not plagiarize?
well, how did you learn to write?
By copying the alphabet.
You copied the alphabet.
Right.
You had to master those basic shapes
Right.
before
Right.
you could develop your own style.
It's like the Beatles as a cover band.
Exactly. You got to learn how to play other people's music
Right.
before you can write your own.
Right.
And he makes a really important distinction between imitation and emulation. Okay, what's the difference?
Imitation is just copying the surface level.
Okay.
The style, the look, the sound, without really understanding the underlying principles.
Right.
Emulation is taking inspiration and transforming it into something new.
So, like, if you're Kobe Bryant,
Right.
you're not just
He's not just mimicking those moves.
thinking, yeah,
He's adapting them.
right.
And he's transforming them into his own.
Right.
Right. And so Kleon says it's in our failures to become our idols
Interesting.
that we actually discover our own voices.
Okay.
It's the gaps between our aspirations and our realities.
Like
Right.
those happy accidents
Absolutely.
that Bob Ross talks about.
Yeah. And so
Ugh.
then he has this great chapter called Write Fan Fiction.
Okay, wait. Fan fiction,
I know,
as in
like writing about,
taking existing
this?
characters and worlds
yeah.
and writing stories about them.
And he's okay with that.
He encourages it.
He tells a story about how he wrote his own sequel to Jurassic Park when he was a kid.
I love that. That's great.
Right. And he says that, in a way, all creative work is fan fiction.
Interesting.
We're all building on the work that came before us.
Right.
So he's like, just embrace it.
But I always hear, like, write what you know.
Right.
And it seems like that contradicts.
He says, write what you like
Okay.
instead of write what you know.
Okay.
Because write what you know can be really limiting
Pretty
if you
right.
haven't experienced that much yet.
Right.
Right. What are you passionate about? What stories do you want to see in the world?
Okay.
He talks about Bradford Cox, the musician, who, as a teenager, recorded a fake album
Wow.
for his favorite band, just for fun.
Oh, wow.
And that experience had this huge influence on his music.
It's play. It's just playing around.
It's play.
Yeah.
That's where the good stuff comes from.
Okay.
He says, don't be afraid to make things just because you like them. What would make a better story? And then he has this great...
That's a good question to ask.
Yeah, that's a great question.
Right.
Then he talks about step away from the screen.
Okay, I like that.
He thinks computers can,
Especially in today's world.
oh, yeah, stifle creativity.
Right.
Too many distractions.
He says, he quotes Linda Berry, the cartoonist, "In the digital age, don't forget to use your digits."
I love that.
Right.
Yeah.
He mentions Stanley Donwood, who makes the Radiohead album art. He feels like computers put a sheet of glass between you and what you're doing.
Almost like too perfect. And you don't
Yeah.
have to, get your hands dirty.
That's right.
Right.
And Kleon's a big advocate for using analog tools, especially in those early stages of the creative process. He talks about how he created his book, Newspaper Blackout, by just taking a permanent marker and blacking out words in the newspaper
Right.
to make poetry.
Interesting. So you're suggesting we have 2 desks.
Yeah. 2 desks is a great way to do it.
One
Have
analog.
one digital.
That's right.
So the analog's where you're brainstorming and getting.
Yeah, where you're playing.
Yeah.
Where you're just getting those ideas down.
Yeah.
And then you take it to the computer to
Just organize it.
to refine it.
To make it perfect.
Okay, I like that. Analog, digital.
That's right.
So we're stepping away from the screen.
Yes.
Okay.
And if you're really feeling stuck, he says,
Okay.
embrace boredom.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
You hear that so much these
Yeah.
days. Like,
I know.
we got to be doing something all the time.
Hustle, hustle, hustle.
Yeah. But he's saying,
He says he gets some of his best ideas when he's ironing.
hmm.
Just doing these mundane tasks.
Okay.
He encourages long walks, staring out the window, even just sitting in silence.
Oh,
He quotes Mara Coleman, "Avoiding work is the way to focus my mind."
so we need to make space
Yes.
for those
For your mind to wander.
aha moments.
That's right.
I like that. Embracing boredom. Yeah. And along with embracing boredom, embrace side projects.
Oh, yeah. He calls them
He calls them.
the stuff you thought was just messing around.
That's right. The stuff that you thought was just messing around. But he says that's often where your most meaningful work comes from.
Because there's no pressure.
Because there's no pressure. It's just for you.
Yeah.
He says have multiple projects going at once.
What does he call that? Productive procrastination.
Reductive procrastination.
I love that.
Right. Like sometimes you need to step away from one project
Yeah.
to come back to it with fresh eyes.
So it's okay to have multiple things going at once.
He learned this from Stephen Tomlinson, who's a playwright. He said, let your passions talk to each other.
Mm-hmm.
And Kleon himself had to learn this. Like, he had to learn to embrace his passion for music again.
Right.
After he'd been so focused on writing.
Mm-hmm.
And he said it was like he'd been missing a limb.
Hmm.
And once he started playing music again, it actually
Oh.
enhanced his writing.
Like that Steve Jobs quote about
He's right.
connecting the dots.
You can only connect the dots looking backward.
Yeah.
And Tomlinson says, let your passions talk to each other.
Okay. So then the next step is, now we got to find our people.
That's right. Find your tribe.
Right.
Find your tribe.
Our community.
He says, you want to find people who are working on the same things that you are, but who are coming at it from slightly different angles.
Mm-hmm.
He talks about how, for him, so much of his community is not geographically based. It's online.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, so many of us are connecting with...
Yeah. Especially these days.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's where so much of our community is. It's online.
Right.
So, be kind, find your people.
Be kind to people online.
That's right. You never know who you're talking to.
Yeah. Yeah.
And how you can, how you benefit each other.
It's true. Yeah.
But he also acknowledges that pressure to be discovered online
Yeah. That could be a trap, right?
can be a trap.
To think that.
And he actually thinks that a little bit of obscurity can be good.
Yeah. And
When you're unknown, there's less pressure to be perfect.
Yeah. When nobody's paying attention,
That's right.
you're free to just kind of
Experiment.
experiment, make mistakes and all that.
Yeah, just try things.
Right.
And then he reminds us, like, most people aren't really paying that much attention.
To us.
Yeah.
So we shouldn't be worried about
Yeah.
what other people are thinking
Right.
too much. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And then once you are ready to share your work,
Right.
he's a big advocate for being really open about your process
Mhm.
and sharing your secrets almost.
Right.
He feels like,
Why would you give all this stuff away?
well, you benefit from it and your audience benefits from it.
Mm-hmm.
He uses Bob Ross and Martha Stewart as examples.
Yep.
People who built these huge followings by basically teaching people how to do things.
Okay. I like that.
And then he also suggests, sharing snippets of what you're working on.
Oh, so just,
Give people a peek behind the curtain.
yeah, just a little taste,
A little taste.
but not the whole thing.
Yeah. He says, We have control over how much we share.
Right.
We can share our dots without connecting them.
Right.
And then he says, don't worry about people stealing your ideas.
Because
This is from Howard Aiken.
Yeah.
If your ideas are any good, you'll have to ram them down people's throats.
Okay.
Right. So
If they're really good, people will...
you're going to have to fight for them to be heard.
Right.
It's the execution.
It's not about protecting your ideas. It's about getting them out there.
That's right.
Okay.
And then he talks about the importance of relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Treat others as you would like to be treated.
Be kind.
Be kind. He quotes Kurt Vonnegut. There's only one rule I know of. You've got to be kind.
Online, too, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, be kind.
And he says, surround yourself with people who are smarter than you. He quotes Questlove. The only mofos in my circle are people that I can learn from.
I love that.
Right. Choose your friends wisely.
Be around people you can learn from.
Yeah, who are going to push you.
Yeah.
To be your best self.
Right. So he also talks about, how to channel your anger.
Yes.
Into creativity.
He talks about how he gets...
right, all the negativity.
He gets a little fired up sometimes reading comments online.
I think we all can relate to that.
Yeah, but he says... My wife has this great line. She says, stop picking fights on Twitter and go make something.
Oh, that's great.
Like get off the internet.
Yeah.
And make something...
something positive.
That's right.
Rather than just kind of stewing in...
That's right.
Negativity.
That's right. And he quotes Henry Rollins... I am both angry and curious. He says...
And he suggests writing instead of angry emails.
Yes.
Public fan letters.
Public fan letters.
Okay, wait. So you're instead of writing...
Write a fan letter to somebody you admire.
That's right. Use the internet for good.
Yeah.
Write a love letter to somebody.
Okay.
To something that you think is great.
I like that.
It doesn't have to be...
Save the positivity.
Spread the positivity. It doesn't have to be about getting a response from that person.
Right.
It's more about expressing your own gratitude.
Okay.
He quotes Hugh MacLeod. The best way to get approval is to not need it.
So true.
And then he says...
So true.
Don't seek validation. Don't worry so much about what other people think.
It's a trap.
It's a trap. Once you put your work out there, he says, you have no control over how people are going to react to it.
Right.
Some
people are going to love it. Some people are going to hate it.
Isn't it hard not to?
I know. It's so hard.
Seek that validation.
But he says, good work often appears effortless.
Yeah.
Which is really frustrating.
Especially when you've put so much time and effort into it.
Oh, yeah. Right. People don't see all the work that goes into it.
Right.
And so it's easy to say, oh, I could do that.
Right.
He's got this funny quote.
But you did.
From Craig Damrower. Modern art, I could do that. Plus, yeah, but you didn't.
That's so true.
And he says, look, it's natural to feel good when people praise your work.
Right.
But those feelings are fleeting.
Yeah.
He suggests keep a praise file.
Okay.
Keep those nice emails, those nice messages that you get. Save those.
For a rainy day.
For those dark days when you're feeling discouraged.
So you have your own little pep rally.
Yes, exactly.
To go back to.
That's right.
Okay, I like that.
And then he says...
So he also gives some advice about living...
Yes.
Living a healthy life.
A healthy lifestyle.
He says, eat well.
This is not...
Exercise.
A stereotypical, starving artist, right?
No. He says...
He's talking about taking care of yourself.
Get enough sleep.
Right.
He even quotes Patti Smith. Go to the dentist.
Yeah. It's take care of yourself.
Your body's...
That body.
Your creativity's connected.
The vessel for your creativity.
Your physical body.
Right.
And your mental well-being.
They got to take care of it.
That's right. He quotes Neil Young. It's better to burn out than to fade away.
Oh, yeah.
But then he offers his own counterpoint.
What's his counterpoint?
It's better to burn slow and see your grandkids.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I like that better.
Right. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Right.
And he offers some really practical advice about money, too.
Oh, okay.
And having a day job.
Wait a minute. I know.
A day job.
He's very realistic about the fact that most creative people are going to have a day job.
Okay.
At least for a while.
But why would you?
He says, look for jobs that teach you valuable skills.
Right.
Or provide you with inspiration.
Right.
Your day job doesn't have to be the enemy of your art.
Yeah.
It can actually fuel it.
Okay.
Right? And it can provide structure and routine.
Right. And a framework for your creative life. That's right.
Yeah, I like that.
And then he talks about building momentum and sticking to a routine.
Mm-hmm.
Big fan of using the calendar.
Oh, yeah. Don't break the chain.
Don't break the chain.
The
Seinfeld method.
Yeah.
Put a big X on the calendar.
For every day that you...
For every day you do the work.
Right.
But, life happens. You're going to miss days.
Right.
It's not about being perfect. It's about consistency.
Right.
So if you miss a day, it's okay. Just get back on the horse as soon as you can.
Don't let it derail you.
Don't let it derail you.
Okay, I like that.
And then he also suggests keeping a logbook,
Okay.
which is not a diary. It's more like a captain's log for your creative journey.
So, what would you track in that?
Anything and everything that relates to your creative process.
Okay.
What did you work on? What inspired you? What challenges did you face?
Okay.
It's a way to look back and track your progress and spot patterns.
So you can kind of see how far you've come.
Yeah.
And to encourage positive reflection at the end of the day, he suggests, asking yourself, what's the best thing that happened today?
That's a good practice.
This is from Nicholson Baker, the writer, just
Yeah.
to kind of help you focus on the positive.
That's a good one.
Yeah. And then finally, he talks about
Okay.
choosing your partners wisely. And he's talking about everything from romantic partners to business partners to friends.
So much of it seems to come down to just finding balance, like a balanced life to support your creativity,
Yeah.
like taking care of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And he does acknowledge
Yeah.
that
He's very realistic.
most people are going to need a day job.
That's right.
And he actually suggests,
Yeah.
finding a day job
He says,
that could actually help your creative work.
look for a job that teaches you a valuable skill
Right. Where you're learning something.
or that provides you with inspiration.
Right. So your day job isn't the enemy of your art.
Right.
It can fuel your art.
That's right.
I like that.
Yeah.
And that kind of goes along with the long game.
Absolutely. The long game. He's all about the long game.
Like this is a marathon.
It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Right.
And he has some great tips for staying motivated along the way.
What were some of those?
Don't break the chain.
Oh, the Seinfeld
The Seinfeld method, yeah.
with the calendar.
The calendar, put a big X on the calendar every day that you do the work.
But what if you miss a day?
Life happens.
Does that mean you failed?
It's okay. We're all human.
Yeah.
Just get back on the horse as soon as you can. Don't let it derail you.
It's not about perfection. It's about consistency.
That's right.
Okay, so the calendar, the don't break the chain.
And then keep a logbook.
Oh, yeah, the log.
Not a diary, but more like a captain's log
The captain's log.
for your creative journey.
So, what kind of things would you track in that?
Anything and everything that relates to your creative process.
Okay.
What did you work on? What inspired you?
Right.
What challenges did you face?
So you can look back and
Yeah.
can kind of track your progress.
Track your progress, spot patterns.
See how far you've come.
Exactly.
Yeah, I like that.
And then to encourage positive reflection at the end of each day, he suggests asking yourself this question. This is from the writer Nicholson Baker. What's the best thing that happened today?
Ooh, I like that.
Just to kind of help you focus on the positive.
A good way to end the day.
Yeah. And then he talks about the importance of
Okay.
finding support, building a support network.
Oh, yeah.
We talked about the online community, finding your people online.
You talked about real life.
But it's also important to have real life connections.
Right, the people you can actually talk to.
That's right, who get what you're doing.
Yeah.
And he even quotes Tom Waits.
Oh, yeah.
Talking about his wife, Kathleen Brennan, and how she essentially rescued his creative life. Wow.
The people we surround ourselves with
And then he talks about
can really affect our art.
mentorship, the importance of mentorship.
Mhm.
Finding people you can learn from,
Just by watching what they're doing.
observing their work,
Yeah.
reading interviews with them.
Right.
And just as importantly as finding mentors, he says, be a mentor.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
Share what you've learned, pay it forward.
Give back.
That's right. Support others.
Be generous.
Be generous with your knowledge and your time.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And then he even suggests writing public fan letters.
Oh, yeah, the public fan letters.
Using the internet to celebrate work that you think is great.
Right. Instead of criticizing stuff,
That's right.
put something positive out there.
Exactly. You don't even have to expect a response.
You're just celebrating something you like.
Exactly.
That's a good one.
And then, of course, there's always going to be negativity, right?
Oh, yeah.
And he's just like, you got to remember, not everybody's going to get your work.
And that's okay.
And that's okay.
The best way to get approval is to not need it. Hugh MacLeod.
Yes. Find your inner compass. Don't let the opinions of others derail you.
And when those negative thoughts do start to creep in,
Yeah.
what does he suggest?
Channel that energy into something productive.
Okay.
Instead of wasting time complaining
Right.
or arguing online.
Yeah, get off Twitter.
Get off Twitter and make something.
It makes something.
I love that.
That's right.
Yeah.
So then he gets into this chapter on constraints.
Oh, yeah, the constraints. That was
which I thought was really...
a little counterintuitive at first.
Yeah, it's like, wait a minute.
Right.
But he makes a really compelling argument about...
I thought it was all about freedom.
I know.
Pushing boundaries.
But he says, sometimes having too many choices...
can be paralyzing.
It can be paralyzing.
That's true.
And that sometimes having limitations can actually...
make you more creative.
Make you more creative.
He uses the example of Dr. Seuss rating green eggs and ham with only 50 words.
Yeah, that's a great example.
It's incredible.
That's amazing.
And then he also quotes Jack White, who said, telling yourself you have all the time in the world, all the money in the world, all the colors in the palette, anything you want, that just kills creativity.
Wow.
So sometimes having limitations
Makes you more resourceful.
makes you more resourceful, yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
You have to think outside the box.
And he reminds us, it's often what an artist chooses to leave out
That's right.
that makes the art interesting.
He quotes Saul Steinberg. What we respond to in any work of art is the artist's struggle against his or her limitations.
So it's not about being perfect. It's about embracing those
It's
limitations.
just in the struggle.
Right. Okay. So we're starting to see all these things come
Mhm.
together.
Yeah, it's like you're not just stealing like an artist, you're living like an artist.
Living like an artist. Yeah.
But it's a lifestyle.
With intention.
Yeah, it's a mindset.
And being kind to yourself.
Absolutely.
That's so important.
He says, it's okay to make mistakes.
Don't be so hard on yourself.
You gotta experiment, you gotta try new things, you gotta be willing to fail.
That's a good place to
Yeah.
take a pause.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground.
We have
But we still have more to explore.
a lot of great stuff in
A
here.
lot of great stuff.
So let's take a moment
Yeah.
to process all this,
Let it all sink in.
and then we'll come back
We'll come back.
with our final thoughts. Okay, so we're back
Back for more.
to wrap up Steal Like an Artist.
Yeah.
Lots of great stuff
A
here.
lot to think about.
And I feel like so much of it really boils down to like mindset. Like it's not just
the attitude.
techniques. It's about
Yeah.
approaching life and work
Yeah.
with a certain
With a certain
openness.
willingness.
Like not being afraid to
yeah.
experiment, to try new things.
Yeah. Not being afraid to fail.
Like with the constraints.
Right.
Instead of seeing those as a roadblock,
Yeah, seeing them as
it's
opportunities.
just more creative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thinking outside the box.
Like, okay with being misunderstood.
Mm-hmm.
Like not everybody's going to get it,
That's okay.
but that's okay.
It's more important to stay true to your own vision
yeah.
than to try to please everybody.
And being okay with sharing your work,
Oh, yeah.
even if it's not perfect.
Even if it's a mess.
Yeah. Like,
yeah.
And I think he was saying that,
He says the internet's a great place to do that.
yeah,
It's like an incubator for ideas.
Yeah.
You put it out there, you get feedback
as you're going,
as you're going.
yeah, develop it
And
in.
be generous.
Yeah.
It's what you've learned.
Share what you know.
Help other people along the way.
Pay it forward.
I like that.
And he talks about,
Support each other.
he doesn't shy away from the practical stuff.
Yeah, like he gets into like managing money,
yeah.
getting organized, taking care of your health.
Yeah.
Like, not just about-
creativity doesn't just happen.
In the art, it's about
Yeah.
your whole life.
That's right.
Right.
You gotta nurture all those things.
And maybe find a day job that can
Yeah.
help
Fuel
that.
your creativity.
Yeah.
He says, look for a job that teaches you valuable skills and sparks inspiration.
Yeah, instead of thinking of it as like
Yeah.
something you have to do,
That's right.
that's totally separate
Separate from your art.
from your art.
It can actually fuel your art.
It's all connected.
It's all connected.
So really, he's just saying,
He's just saying,
just make stuff.
just make stuff.
Don't wait for permission.
Yeah.
Don't wait for the perfect moment.
Just get started.
Just start it
That's the hardest part.
and
And find your people.
find your people.
Support each other.
Support each other.
That's right. Yeah. And this has been a great deep dive
It has.
into Steal Like an Artist by Austin Kleon.
Lots of good stuff.
And I hope you've enjoyed
Hopefully this has inspired you
listening in
to get out there
as much as we've enjoyed talking about it.
and make something.
Until next time, keep stealing like an artist.
And keep learning.
And we'll see you later.
Hey, If you made it to the end of the video, thanks so much for listening. If you want to get the book for yourself, use the link in the description. If you're looking to level up your income, schedule a one-on-one with me to see if what I do might be right for you. Remember, like if you like the content and share so we can all become more book buff and life smart.